Welcome to the 11th episode of the Creative Wanderer podcast,
your weekly jaunt into creative inspiration.
We are Emilija and
Jo.
Hello, Jo.
Hello, Emilija. And hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this week.
Today, we'll be talking about week 10 of The Artist Way, recovering a sense of self-protection. This week asks of us to be truthful and honest about those cheeky little habits that we have adopted in our creative lives in order to excuse the fact that we are not creating. It is so much easier to focus outwardly and blame life and existence for our artistic woes and misfortune. We learn very quickly that our addictive behaviours pay poor dividends, and that no matter how much we resist giving them up, our creative path requires us to do exactly that by setting firm boundaries and thus protecting ourselves. Hold on to your breeches and bonnets. We are going to take a deep dive into workaholism, creative drought, competition and fame.
Ooh, wow, that's a lot. It's going to be fun. Well, we hope you're enjoying The Artist's Way and our little insights into it. If you would like to have an extra member of your sacred circle, Emilija and I are so very happy to be able to offer you our support in a number of ways. You can email us to let us know what you're enjoying or what you're struggling with at creative_wanderer@yahoo.com. Please follow us on Instagram at Creative Wanderer. Just replace part of creative with the number 8 and the beginning of wanderer with the number 1. You can share any pictures, quotes you've been inspired by, or affirmations which resonate with you. And if you do get in touch with us, we would be delighted to give you a shout out.
We certainly would.
So Emilija, the question we ask every week, how did you find this week?
Oh, it was a week full of discoveries for me because I was asked to truthfully examine some deep-seated habits and patterns of behaviour which I was clinging to but which did not serve me at all. You know, those toxic behaviours which also get permissioned and perpetuated by our society, and we never question those or try to change them despite the fact that they do us no good. However, we cling onto them for comfort. Just the mere fact that I stopped and took a good hard look at my work habit and my relationship to competition was enough for me to start making some positive changes in my life. Now, the section on fame was absolutely mind-blowing, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
And I believe that that section should definitely be taught in schools.
I think you're right. It certainly should.
So, Jo, how was this week for you?
Wow, this week was an interesting one because tackling the deadlies was very interesting to me as I kept getting drugs over and over again, and I was super confused as I don't do drugs. But then I was thinking perhaps it was pointing me in the direction of that which I'm addicted to that takes my focus away from my life's purpose. And so I was totally forced to look at what these were so as to free myself from their destructive grip. And it has become clearer and clearer to me as we go through this process of The Artist's Way that one needs only 2 things to combat all blocks: love and to create.
Absolutely. This week asked for so much honesty. We have come to that point where we have uncovered and dug up so many of our blocks and limiting beliefs that now we are actually getting down to the bare bones of the patterns of behaviour which we know are not serving us. However, they offer us so much comfort. They're little guilty pleasures, the little addictions, the little toxic, loopy behaviours. And the society permissions them as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it certainly does. I mean, in fact, actually, it doesn't just permission them, it almost forces them upon you, really.
Yeah.
Well, they're all part and parcel, aren't they, of the dangers of the trail. Many of our difficulties on our creative path are of a spiritual nature.
Yes, that was the crux of this week.
Yeah.
Look, you have to be honest. Truth heals.
Without doubt.
Because I guess my realization was that no matter how much I was convincing myself that I was truthful and honest to myself and I really knew myself, I was still paying myself lip service.
Ooh, yes. Wow.
It's interesting we can do that to ourselves,
We
isn't
certainly
it?
can. We resist the energy and the feeling which makes us feel out of control. And we also often block change. And that feeling that we are going too fast or expanding too fast, or, that life force or God wants to take us in another unfamiliar direction.
Yes.
We're frightened of it. It's new territory. It's another fear. You don't know where you're going.
That's true. You numb yourself out. all these little addictions and habits that we have definitely take us away from the intensity of the feeling that's connected to our next step and that expansion.
Well, it all ties in, doesn't it, to self-sabotage. You're not doing it because you never know what that could bring if you did it. If you jump on that opportunity.
So this week is definitely a crunch week. You can't hide.
No.
You know, so far we've covered negative beliefs, skepticism, criticism, shame, limits. Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Virtue traps.
Yes.
Perfectionism, risk aversion, jealousy, creative loss. But this week's blocks are more substance than behavior based. So there are more tangible blocks that we reach for, like physical blocks, such as food, for example, or binge watching.
Yeah, or like focusing your attention on somebody else.
Well, also alcohol.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Right?
Alcohol.
You've got drugs.
You've got work. Or anything that takes you away.
But we favour the blocks, and it's usually one or two, are pet blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Pet addictions, which block us effectively.
Yeah.
And there are those little toxic habits and behaviours and addictions that we find very difficult to give up.
Yeah. And we turn to them, whether consciously or unconsciously, to slow our growth.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what we do. We want to stay that small seed in the ground rather than push our necks up through the soil and into an unknown territory where we don't know what joys and great things could happen to us.
Another interesting toxic behaviour that we often fall into is love, craving romance.
Love is why we're here, no matter what. But when you crave something so much it becomes toxic, then it no longer has a virtue, does it?
That takes away your creative focus.
Yeah.
Or you use that energy to not create, or to kind of alchemize your creativity into love. But you also have people who are addicted to the pathos of love, who crave the lack of it, the drama of it. They wallow in the self-pity of that unrequited love.
All by myself, don't want to be, but they do.
Julia says, by blocking ourselves, we are placing creative force outside our hands.
Yeah. And putting it into somebody else's hands is not okay when it comes to us. And we block fear and prevent risk by indulging in our toxic habits.
Yes.
You know, we're still feeling fearful, but we're going, oh, it's okay, because I'm going to try and take that away by being drunk, or I'm going to take that away by self-soothing with food, a tub of ice cream and a bag of crisps.
We've all been there. So
certainly have.
But it's interesting how we are self-soothing with the actual items that are harming us.
Yeah. Oh, it's a twisted society.
Well, there you go. So these things in themselves, well, most of them, you know, we're not pushing drugs here, but most of these things in themselves, they're not bad.
No, it's when you do them too often. You know that old saying, everything in moderation doesn't really cause you any harm, but if you do too much of it, then it will have the opposite effect.
It is when we abuse them that they become an issue and they become harmful within our creative expression.
Yeah.
So when we start noticing these patterns of behavior in our life, in our creative process, it's very important to be truthful to oneself.
Yeah.
Honest, not feel bad.
No.
Not judge yourself. They are a part and parcel of living on planet Earth. And Julia gives us some really beautiful words of advice. She says, knowing yourself as an artist means acknowledging which of these you abuse when you want to block yourself. If creativity is like a burst of the universe's breath through the straw that is each of us, we pinch that straw whenever we pick up one of our blocks. We shut down our flow, and we do it on purpose.
Oh.
Well, Julia does not mince her words.
She doesn't. She knows what she's talking about, does Julia?
She is a hard taskmaster.
Yes.
And rightly so.
Yes.
The whole Artist Way journey really deeply cares about artists.
Yeah.
And she is so focused on our recovery and discovery of our creativity and creative potential. She will not pay us any lip service whatsoever.
And she also gets us to think about how we recognise the blocks.
Right.
And the clue, she says, is this. This is the block that we defend as our right.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't want to give our addictions up.
No.
And we get furious, actually, if we even consider it.
Oh, we get so defensive.
Yeah.
We'll find every single justification to justify our behavior
Yeah.
and why we are sticking
Yes.
by it and how it is serving us.
Yeah.
And you're wrong and I'm right.
Yeah.
And leave me alone.
Yeah, because I want to do it and keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because not having it is scary.
It is almost like our artistic child is throwing a huge tantrum.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
And how do we soothe the child? We ask them, well, what do you need?
Yeah.
What is it that you're not getting? What are you trying to self-soothe with in order to satisfy that emptiness? And is there anything a bit more productive, creative, wholesome to help you?
Yeah. And what this does is it takes us back to our old friend, fear.
Oh, yes.
You know, the reason we poison ourselves is so that we don't have to deal with the fear or the anxiety.
Our creative anxiety.
Yeah.
I still have that.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Because it taps into that earthy thing about us. It's something that's really integral to us and it's important to us. So of course we are fearful and anxious because we want to do a good job.
Yes, we do.
Working out what you're afraid of is really important. To be able to put the right name to it and then you can deal with it.
But Jo, do you know, most of us instinctively know what our poison is, don't we?
Oh, yes, we certainly do.
And they've got a bit of a sneaky way of appearing in our lives. They always happen just at the right moment when we want to block ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we do attract what we focus on.
Yeah.
Subconsciously or consciously, we want to get blocked. So we will pull in the right block for us. It is as simple as that. It will appear as a coincidence because we haven't planned it. But there it comes on that carousel of baggage. Oh, hello, my dear old friend.
Fancy seeing you here.
Exactly.
The thing is, Amelia, these blocks, these addictions that we have, they only offer us a temporary relief. And the repercussions of your abuse of that addictive block can be huge.
It is a commitment. It's almost like contracting with the devil. Let's put it bluntly. You know, we kind of trade a small piece of our soul for something that we know that's not quite good for us.
Yes, or not.
We do make that little pact.
We do, yeah. Maybe we do.
I'm being very dramatic.
The devil within.
Yeah, I'm being very dramatic.
You
but,
are being dramatic. You're an actor. Who's being dramatic?
But you know, we talked about the creative U-turns.
Yes.
And these little addictions that we have are a form of a creative U-turn.
Yeah. They're literally the vehicle which U-turns you.
Yep. Julia says it takes grace and courage to admit and surrender our blocking devices. Oh, I like that.
I do too, because it's difficult to give them up.
It is. You get a picture of this contraption
Yeah.
that we've put in place.
Snip, 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 snip.
We just press the button and all the little bits and pieces and cogs. And,
Oh, I can totally see that.
yeah, they start turning.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it, to give up these blocks and toxic behaviours because they serve us so well, especially when they are still working. Even when they stop working, we hope they'll work again.
Oh, well, you know, this idea that as artists, we've got all this toxicity that we turn to when we feel disgruntled or when we feel that our art is not getting us where we envisioned it was going to get us to. It ties in with our last week's discovery that we need to think of artists and ourselves as healthy and productive rather than victimized or suffering.
Oh, gosh, yes, absolutely. We are healthy. We are vital. And this all boils down to the issue of faith and trust.
Oh, yes.
You know, in a twisted way, we choose a block because it keeps us safe within our comfort zone. But also, we're not happy. You might be in your comfort zone, but are you really comfortable?
You see, I can speak to that because we take a strange comfort in this feeling of unhappiness as artists. And I remember when I actually started working on my limiting beliefs and I started reframing my expectations from negative into positive expectations and started having that sense of possibilities. I would get up each morning and I'd feel so happy and joyful. And then there was a stage in that process when being happy made me feel uncomfortable.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I became suspicious of this feeling of happiness. And then I experienced fear. The most insane, twisty, upside down thought pattern occurred. And I was like, I am afraid of happiness. I was afraid to feel happy. Now, it made sense then to me. Why would I then go and self-soothe with toxic behavior?
To stop you feeling happy.
There you
go.
go.
Oh, my word.
How insane is that? But
That is bonkers.
I remember it clearly It happened on the Artist Way journey.
Gosh. Well, I guess when you went through that, you became more attuned to your U-turn, and then the blocks will stop working when you start to feel more attuned to what's happening. And you realise you can see it. You can see the U-turn from a mile away, really, at that point, can't you?
Yes. I'm learning still to use my creative anxiety to fuel my creativity rather than push me towards toxic habits and take me away from my creative expression.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Isn't
That's
it
great.
nice?
Yeah.
Because the Artist Way is not about changing you into another person. It's all about working with what we and who we are and what we got right now.
Yeah. Now we're coming to that point in this week's chapter where we talk about workaholism. And Amelia is very much a fan of working a lot and not taking time out for herself to just be.
I've learned on this journey that if I'm keeping myself busy constantly and filling up every single minute of my day with some sort of content, and well, the reading deprivation helped with that realization a lot, that I actually am not listening to what my little lovely, beautiful, creative artist child is trying to communicate to me.
Yeah. We can look at the definition of workaholism, and it's really simple. It's compulsiveness about working. And what compulsive means, it says resulting from or relating to an irresistible urge.
It's funny, isn't it? Most of us want to create a lifestyle where we work less.
Yeah.
But when you think about it logically, I have this irresistible urge to constantly work. Irresistible, though. When has work ever been irresistible?
It's bonkers. It is.
Oh, goodness me. That's the one that it's been the most difficult for me to give up, I must admit.
Yeah, but we're getting there. It's all a learning curve, isn't it?
Absolutely. So if we are filling up every minute of every hour with work and we are constantly caught up in that erratic feeling of need to control every second of our life, which actually is a symptom of being out of control, then we have no time to listen to the creative flow of our river or dive deep down into our creative well.
That's so true. Julia says workaholics are so controlling that they will over-control you or their environment.
Yes, that's very true.
It's awful, actually, isn't it, to think that somebody would be so much of a workaholic that they would try and push their workaholism onto you.
Yes, that's where the micromanagement comes into play as well. And I've experienced it myself. I've done it to other people and I've had it done to me. And this is what feeds this monster of workaholism. It's permissioned in our society.
It is. And we live in a society that exalts workaholism, doesn't it? And it expects us to be available and at our boss's beck and call 24/7, always switched on, never resting.
Do you know, Jo, it is a virtue trap, isn't it?
Completely.
There is this virtue signalling badge attached to it. You think, you're going to get a medal.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a medal. But the thing is, we very often treat work as an escape from life and living.
Yeah.
We'd rather be working than dealing with the responsibilities that our life throws at us. And then, you get that sense that you are actually doing something.
Yeah.
That you are flowing, that the life is going somewhere.
Yeah.
But when you look at your creative production, you haven't produced anything.
No. Well, if what you're doing is helping somebody else's dream to the detriment of your own dream, then that's not really living, is it?
No. Our creative impulse is super strong. It's life force itself. We cannot be anything but creators. So it makes sense, in order to stop and block that flow, that we are turning to the strongest stuff there is available to us, right?
Yeah.
And Julia also mentions it. She says the desire to block the fierce flow of creative energy is an underlying reason for addiction.
Oh.
Yeah. We also rarely admit workaholism as a condition that we have, because the society applauds this workaholism bug and expects us to be workaholics.
Yeah.
And then if we're addicted to it, we're in a vicious circle. So can we get out?
We can get out. I have great news for you.
Ooh, yes.
We get out by having fun, and doing our artist date every week is the challenge to a workaholic to stop work and play, because if it's viewed as play and not serious work, then the workaholic will just brush it to one side and try everything they can to not indulge in it.
Asking ourselves, how much time do we spend having fun in a day, in a week, in a month? It's a very good question and it's quite an eye-opener.
Yeah. Julia puts it beautifully in the book. She says, for most blocked creatives, fun is something they avoid almost as assiduously as their creativity. Why? Fun leads to creativity. It leads to rebellion. It leads to feeling our own power. And that is scary, we say to ourselves. I may have a small problem with overwork, but I'm not really a workaholic.
Well, I thought the same. And then Julia has an amazing 20-point questionnaire in the book that made me think otherwise.
Yes.
I did the workaholic test and I realized that my life has always been so busy and I actually love being busy. I do.
Yes.
I'm just a very dynamic person. However, I would constantly have a stream of projects and once completed, I would immediately jump from one project to the next without allowing myself free time between projects. And I even didn't allow myself to achieve closure on my tasks, or not to mention reward myself for that matter.
Gosh.
I felt burned out, but not because of the actual physical exertion, but because of these little mental signposts that I failed to notice.
Yeah.
I was like a freight train, Jo. I just kept on going.
Yeah, choo-choo.
No stops. It was just whoosh.
Powering through. Well, the thing is, it's a form of self-abuse. Because if you're not allowing yourself downtime or allowing yourself time to recharge, then you're just constantly going.
Exactly. Now, there is a difference between enthusiasm for one's work or project or art and a constant daily grind, which compulsively fills up every minute of every hour of our day.
Yeah.
And we need to be looking at the quantity of hours we spend on a project versus the quality of those hours, right? We need to focus on the emotional quality contained within the hours we spend working.
You know, workaholics really do actually resent their addiction to work, but they also find self-worth in it. So if work validates our self-worth, why would you want to give up any part of it? You would want to keep doing it if it makes you feel worthy of yourself and what you're doing. Then on and on and on you go, working hour after hour after hour. So
you're not going to give up something that serves your self-worth, even if it's actually lowering your self-worth.
Yeah.
And that again goes back to the fact that the blocks we're looking at this week have a spiritual root.
Yes, they do.
This week's theme is self-protection, and it comes into play when we examine our work habits honestly and very clearly.
Absolutely.
So we spot these areas where we misspend our time by seeing where we have failed to set boundaries.
Another fantastic thing to do, which really helps you set a boundary, is to set what Julia calls the bottom line.
Right.
What you're prepared to actually do.
Yes. And also, this week's tasks are fantastic.
Yeah.
They really help us with that much needed honesty that's required for us to actually view our toxic behaviours and then do something about them.
Yeah, it's really good.
Julia leaves us with a great statement. Workaholism is a block, not a building block. This statement that Julia adamantly and strongly put in the book, I believe due to her own personal experience. Julia knows that the buck always stops with us.
Yeah.
And that we are the ones who police ourselves into recovery. And these are some hard truths that get delivered in this chapter this week. This chapter gives us options.
Certainly does.
But I guess it's important to address this because workaholism, at the end of the day, kills creativity and authenticity.
Brutal.
Yeah, after a while you get set into this workaholic patterns of behavior you're just constantly doing, and it's like, where is my authenticity?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Where's my spark?
Exactly. So, Jo, from the wasteland of workaholism, we are moving into
the arid, desolate desert of drought. It often appears out of nowhere as well.
oh my goodness,
We've all had it.
it's horrific.
We all go through it, every single one of us. We're in the desert. There are no established pathways. We're kind of in free fall, I think, at this point.
We are.
A bit, you know? And the territory's uncharted and we feel like we've lost the ability to navigate the landscape and we're just there, weak as kittens.
We we see the skeletons of all our expired dreams strewn everywhere across the landscape. And there are ominous reminders of us as a big, huge failure.
And it's incredibly difficult to see one's way out of this place where we seem to be haunted by these broken, forgotten and bypassed dreams. And we feel as though our soul is as dry as a crisp.
It's true, Jo. That's the worst. You are standing in the middle of this parched landscape, desperately looking for inspiration.
Well, looking for the creative stream, but it's dried up.
Well, in a desert, it's very deep
Yeah.
under our feet, right?
Yeah.
You have this feeling of desperation when you feel that you've lost all your talent. That nothing creative or flowy or imaginative is going to ever be uttered or produced by you.
Like having writer's block. Definitely. When you can't see a clear pathway through. Yeah.
And then you realise, my goodness, I've lost my jive, my groove.
My mojo.
And then we start feeling like there is no point in communicating through our art. And we start living day by day in sort of an empty automaticity.
Yeah. But, Amelia, there is hope. While we are surrounded by nothing but sand and desolation, Julia says you get up and you write your morning pages. You show up every day, no matter how horrendously difficult it is, no matter how utterly painful you perceive it to be. You show up and you write. And when you're writing your morning pages, you might find inspiration.
Absolutely. This is where the need for self-protection and self-nurturing and gentleness towards ourselves as artists, creatives, as people really needs to be very strong and applied daily.
Yeah, because Julia says, and yet we write our morning pages because we must.
And she mentions that line a couple of times in the section, doesn't she?
She does.
And in a desert, I guess we start feeling like we are dying.
Yeah.
And we are filled with parched grief.
Oh.
We feel that the drought will last forever and that we won't. You know, that we're already dust finished. The game was over before it even began. And we also feel that we have failed to achieve what we have set out to achieve and that we never will achieve that.
Yeah.
So we feel like a big failure.
Yes. Julia says that when we are in a creative drought, we are fighting with God, that we have lost faith in the great creator and in ourselves.
Yes.
Feels pretty hopeless, doesn't it?
But remember, Jo, how many stories have we heard of people who actually went to the desert to find their vision?
Yeah, to find themselves.
Exactly. And that, I think, is our saving grace.
Yeah.
And that's that little spark of hope we can hold on to.
But also because you have no distractions, so you are able to just be.
It holds that potential of those seeds
Yeah.
that sometimes in an arid desert can live there up to 30 years. And then you've got the rainfall, because the rain will fall. And the device, the instrument that brings the rain are the morning pages. And all of a sudden this incredibly desolate, grey-looking desert bursts out in flowers.
Yeah.
Drought is a tearless time of grief. However, in a creative life, droughts are a necessity.
Definitely.
Very wise words by Julia.
Indeed they are. Another great thing about the morning pages is that we eventually find that the drought will end and that we will, through the discipline of them, have found creative inspiration. The ability to go on, the ability to move forward, because they will have shown us the path home.
Julia says, for all creative beings, the morning pages are the lifeline, the trail we explore and the trail home to ourselves. They're both our wilderness and our trail.
Yes.
Of course they are. She also says to write is to write, to make things go right. Because when we continue, no matter how awful, how filled with grudges we feel to write our morning pages, we will find a way to make it through to the oasis of inspiration.
Yeah.
So deserts are a harsh environment. Let's not kid ourselves.
No.
They do also within them contain a seed of expansion and possibilities. And they do act as a signpost on our journey.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. The great thing is even though they're tough, even though they're harsh, droughts have a purpose in a creative life. Happily, hurrah, hooray, droughts make us stronger.
They do indeed. We just
Yes.
need to know how to survive, where to go and get the water, and how to get to that oasis, and learn how to manage the vulture circling above our head.
Absolutely. Shoot them down with a pea gun.
Tame them. I know you're a good shot. However, let's be compassionate. towards the
Absolutely. I'm
animals.
much better at being compassionate than shooting things.
Right. So from Drought, we are travelling towards fame.
I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly high.
Well, fame.
Is a vulture.
Fame is a vulture, I would say. Yes, it definitely
Circling,
picks
circling.
at you, at your bones. Not very pleasant image, is it? When I first read this section on fame, I said, where have you been my whole life? In fact, to be honest, Jo, I'm tempted to just read the whole thing word by word out loud on this podcast,
Yeah,
and
it
that's
is
it, and just wrap
incredible.
it up.
Yeah, this is the section to read, isn't it? If you've only got time enough to read one section of The Artist's Way, and it contains what Amelia believes, and I completely agree with her, to be the greatest and simplest truth about the artistic and creative process. The point of the work is the work.
Yes, your goal, your purpose is not fame.
No.
It's not this external recognition of fame. That's not the reason you are creative or artistic.
You are creative and artistic because you have to be creative and artistic.
Because the work that wants to be expressed through you just cannot be suppressed. No matter how many drugs we feed it,
Yeah.
it will still find its way out.
Yeah, the truth will out. And creativity is truth.
So any young artist just starting on their journey should definitely read this section, which is full of wisdom and which will save them a lot of confusion and heartache and help them focus on their craft and their process. So not necessarily focusing on how I'm going to get famous and how fast can I get famous.
Yeah.
You know, Bill Esper used to repeat it all the time. Make sure that your art is the star within you, not you the star within your art.
Oh, I like that very, very much. And it's so true.
It's all about craftsmanship.
It is. We had a look and we did our usual delving and diving into the definition
Yes.
and derivation of the word fame. And it says this: widespread reputation, especially of a favourable character, renown, public eminence. And the derivation of it from Latin fama, talk, rumour, report, reputation, public opinion, renown, good reputation, but also ill fame, scandal, reproach. The root is bar, to speak, tell, say. And the goddess Fama was the personification of rumour in Roman mythology.
You know, fame is always closely followed by gossip and rumour.
Definitely, because we often find when people find fame, you know, they're lauded and applauded, but then society always wants to take them down.
A double-edged sword.
Yeah, isn't it
It
just
really is.
horrible?
Not nice.
No.
Well, fame is a spiritual drug. Fame is not success. They're two different things.
Very much so. Polar opposites in a way.
Absolutely. The way I view it, fame is defined by society. They have this idea of fame and success. And then if you do not achieve that level of fame and success that they've nebulously imagined, then they disregard you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not famous or successful, so your art and your creativity, it's not worthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But for me, it's very important as a creative to define my own success. What does success mean to me? And I did that very early in my career. I know exactly why I act and why I do all these things creatively. And it's got nothing to do with fame. We crave fame. It's addictive, but it's not nourishing. And we are always left wanting more.
Yeah. I can't get no satisfaction.
No. You're not able to assuage that craving, isn't it?
No, it's true. Julia says that fame is a spiritual drug, but it's often a byproduct of artistic work. But like nuclear waste, it can be a very dangerous byproduct. And it takes a long time to decompose, to decay, like nuclear waste.
Oh, yes, it is. It's the fallout after a nuclear bomb, isn't it?
That's true, yeah.
That was beautiful to read for me. It's a byproduct.
Yeah.
It's a souvenir that you may pick up on your journey towards, well, whatever you set out
Towards
to
your
achieve.
success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't see success at the end of my journey. I just see a type of craftsmanship or a type of skill that I have spent my life perfecting. So I'm actually feeling that I'm in flow with that skill rather than an accolade at the end of that road, right?
I agree with you.
For me, it's always about how can I fine tune this? How can I be a bit more precise or clear or simple or pure in my chosen form of self-expression?
Absolutely. That speaks volumes to me as well. What we do, which is one of the most toxic things, is we end up asking other people, how are we doing?
Oh, so we seek their evaluation of our work.
Yeah, we do. It's not an honest thing to ask, is it? Because what we're really asking them is how they think our work looks to them. And it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with us and how we perceive our work.
I was reading once about a Russian theatre company and the way they work. And they've got a director and clearly an ensemble of actors. And actors get up and rehearse and do the work.
Yes.
And the director is always silent.
Oh.
The idea is the actor is the craftsperson.
Yeah.
They know the tools of their trade.
Yes.
The rehearsal is there for them to try out different tools and different approaches to the character, to the play. And then the director just places his trust into the actor's craftsmanship and says, let's see what they're going to come up with today. The director is there to direct. Right?
Yeah.
Not to tell you how to act.
That's true. That's very true.
So I love that. I just love the fact that the actors are not getting any feedback from the director, because then you end up with that craving of give me some acknowledgement. Tell me how I'm doing. Yeah. Tell me how fabulous I am.
Yeah. And what this does, it makes us feel low self-worth, because it comes from a place of low self-worth and lack of self-love.
Fame does interfere with perception. So we lose sight of what we are creating and we become obsessed with recognition, being renowned, being famous.
Yeah.
That becomes our goal, rather than actually looking at ourselves and saying, hang on a minute, why do I have such a drive to be famous? What is the beast that I'm feeding with this fame? And you rightly said that we need to be looking at self-love.
Yeah.
Do we love ourselves? Or do we want to shortcut that work that we need to do by gaining accolades and fame and recognition? And then we've got all these adoring fans bowing at our feet. And we feel adored and beautiful and approved of by them. But inside, you're empty.
Yeah, but also with fame, what you're doing is you're comparing yourself to others. You're comparing your art to somebody else's art.
Yes.
And then you find yourself back in that horrible lack cycle again. The worst thing about it as well is that we are unable to actually be happy for other people's success because we're comparing ourselves.
There's a very simple viewpoint that I adopt. There is just work, which is my work, which is the whole point of being an artist and a creator, just do your work, versus famous work.
Yeah.
The one that the society approves of.
Yes.
But work is work.
Yeah.
You can paint the most beautiful painting and it can sit in somebody's attic for forever.
Yeah.
It's still what it is.
The work has still been done. The creative flow has still happened. It doesn't necessarily matter what happens with it.
Gossip follows fame.
Yeah.
Very hot on its heels. And another way of feeding our fame monster is by reading glossy gossip magazines.
Yeah. It's taking people down a peg or two.
And that sells the newspapers. There is this incredible void in today's society that we all have, that we feed with reading gossip magazines, watching trashy shows. There is an emptiness.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people haven't stopped and given themselves self-love.
Without doubt.
But then there is that mechanism of comparing ourselves to others and feeling kind of cheekily satisfied or happy when we see somebody else's misfortune. But there is also a control mechanism at play, which is being used on the populace to lower their self-worth and push them into false idol worship, which is worshipping outside themselves instead of realizing that they are enough, that they are perfect, that they are complete as they are, that they do not need to look to anything outside of them to measure their self-worth. We, each one of us, we are all already so worthy.
We are all already everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Julia says, remember, treating yourself like a precious object will make you strong. So we've got to be kind to ourselves.
Yes. So the antidote, I guess, it's love.
Always. To everything.
Self-pampering. Julia gives us the tools and the way to liberate ourselves from the chains of that wretched fame monster. She says we must actively, consciously, consistently and creatively nurture our artist selves.
Definitely. One way to do that, which I think is one of the most beautiful things actually, is to send yourself fan mail.
Yes, you have to be your own biggest fan.
Absolutely you do.
Absolutely swoon over you, adore yourself completely.
Yeah, say well done. Look at you, how far you've come. I think that the problem we have, especially when it comes to fame, is that without it, we won't be loved.
Yes.
As artists or as people. I find that so incredibly sad that if you're constantly searching and seeking and putting all of your attention on being famous, and without it you'd just be like a sort of husk of a being. When you're not, you're complete. You don't need the accolade.
The artist's way very often points to the fact that a lot of inner work is needed.
Yeah.
We need to slow down and work on ourselves. There's no easy way out. We need to come to terms that most of the time we will not get the credit that we think we deserve. Again, we think it.
Yeah.
So that's just our own perception.
So what do you do when you're ambushed by the fame drug, Amelia?
You do your art.
You create!
Yeah, with all these obstacles that we've looked at, the way to cure them is by creating, is by the doingness. The recovery is actually really simple. What we have been recovering is the doingness.
Absolutely.
Get up, do.
Yeah, indeed. Julia says, only when we are being joyfully creative can we release the obsession with others and how they are doing.
Yes, I had a huge realization. I realized that Julia has devised two tools, the morning pages and the artist date, which actually solve all the blocks and drugs we encounter in our artistic lives. And that they are so simple that we can dismiss them on that basis for their sheer simplicity.
Yes.
But they're powerful because of their simplicity. We do the work by writing our morning pages, and we love ourselves by taking ourselves on our artist dates. Simple.
True.
We make our creative child happy. Now, in essence, artists and creatives are masters of simplicity and purity. So it's no wonder that these two simple tools wield such great power. It's the fact that we have complicated things so messily in the first place. Those things got us into this creative tangle and bind we're in, right?
Yeah.
So to get to simplicity and the actual truth, we need to use simple tools.
Simples.
Yeah. I remember reading about the morning pages the first time.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that's just too easy breezy. I'm so complicated. But now that realization has brought it all back home, I think, for me. I understand how amazingly incredible this wonderful healer that we have in Julia is.
Yeah, for sure. Marvellous. And now, Amelia, it's time to slow down and take a wandering pause to reflect. Why don't you ring your bell? Ring your bell, ring your bell.
Wow, Jo. I don't think I need to ring my bell after this.
Oh, gosh, yes, you definitely do.
All right, let's ring my bell, shall we?
I'd say you should.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Every time. Just makes me feel happy.
It is a magical unicorn bell.
Good gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you get one of those?
Oh, it's a heavily guarded secret.
Was it built by the fairies in the land of Snoop?
I'm not saying anything.
Keep it to yourself.
I am. We are going to very soon jump into another rather delightful topic, which is competition.
Toxic topic.
And we wanted to take a pause and reflect on competition.
That's true.
We would like to ask you a few questions, which will hopefully help you with that process.
Have you ever taken a moment to sit down and really consider competition? Why is it encouraged in our society, and how does that influence your artistic process?
When is competition healthy and when does it become toxic?
Have you ever had times in your life where you have been in competition with someone, not necessarily about your art, but to be the best.
Have you ever found yourself comparing yourself to someone else's performance or art, and it has become less about you and what you have to offer as a creative and more about them and what they have achieved?
Oh, I mean, we've all been there. I think we've thought of this time and time again because competition is so inextricably linked with jealousy.
But it also gets ingrained in us from a very young age.
Very young age, yeah.
You know, go and be the best. Go and get that cup.
Yeah.
Get that rosette.
Win, win, win. You don't want to be the loser, do you? You don't want to lose.
Let's delve into competition and see how competition technically is a creative block.
Yeah, it is. It's another spiritual drug most of us are addicted to, isn't it?
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. It stems from our need for approval from others. So we're going back into fame here, thinking about why do we need to do that? Why are we constantly wanting someone else's approval for our art?
Again, we are using others as a yardstick of our own self-worth and success. Another yikes.
It certainly is.
Well, there is a need to reframe our thought process
Yeah.
when we witness another person's success.
They're not a threat to us.
No.
We should view them as an encouragement to continue our creative work and use their success as an inspiration, as a part of our efforts in our own creative process.
Yes, if they are doing so well, it means that we can do so well as well.
Yes, there's a lovely saying that has stuck with me for quite a while now, and it says, no point in being in competition with anybody but yourself. The only person you should be in competition with is the you of yesterday.
Oh, wow, I love that. True.
Yeah. Julia says, when we are ogling the accomplishments of others, we take our eye away from our own through line. Yeah.
What a word. Ogle.
Ogle bogle. What does it mean?
I loved it so much, so I did a bit of research. It's not a Latin word. It does not have a Latin origin. It's got a Low Germanic origin as well as a Dutch origin. And they both basically reduce down to look at, from ug, eye.
Yeah. I actually really like the definition of it as well. To stare at in a lecherous manner.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, like lascivious.
Creepy.
Oh, no.
So let's not be in such a competitive mindset so as to lecherously stare at other people. But you know what? That's what I guess the underlying current of emotion is. Yeah. If it's not quote unquote healthy competition.
Yeah, for sure. What we tend to do when we're in competition with somebody else is we start talking ourselves out of creating.
Yes.
We assign the cause of our lack of progress to others instead of focusing on our creativity and just to keep on creating and going forward in our perpetual motion machine.
Yes. Instead of observing somebody's success and being very happy for them, we start begrudging them that success, isn't it? We start getting emotional.
Yeah.
And constructing all sorts of justifications and reasons instead of just saying, I'm going to use that as a fuel to propel me even further in my creative activity.
Yes, indeed. You know, it goes back again to fame, doesn't it? And when we're reading all of this, the rags, the tabloids, the red tops, and we use them to wallow in a lot of unhealthy envy, Julia says.
Yeah, absolutely. We excuse our avoidance of practicing our art by shifting our focus on others and what they have done and achieved.
Yeah.
So then we think, oh, if that's already been done by that person, what's the point in me doing it? And then we start defining our creativity by comparing ourselves to others and their success and their creative process. And again, as we've mentioned, it links into jealousy and fame. So what do we do?
Oh, we've got to go within and listen to our own inner creative voice. Otherwise, we become defensive and we feel unable to take control of our creative process. We must never feel that we shouldn't do it because someone else is doing something.
We are as unique as our fingerprints.
Yes, our snowflake.
So I pose this question, could competition be a twisted form of perfectionism?
I think it could actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the root of competition is the desire to be better.
Oh, not just better, perfect, the best.
Yeah, the very, very best.
So us as creatives and artists, we need to nurture our desire to be.
Oh, yes. We need to step out of the compare and contrast mindset.
Exactly. And just be who we are.
Yeah.
Something within us is struggling to be expressed and manifested into reality. And that is what we need to concern ourselves with. We need to concern ourselves with us, not others.
Yes, but not the ego us. Because the ego wants to be number one, the best, the most original, you know. Julia says we cannot afford to worry about what is in or out. If it is too early or too late for a piece of work, its time will come again.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I found that very healing.
Yeah, me too. Most of the time we see an old in a new light. So that's rather nice, isn't it? To see something that's an old idea, but when you see it in a new light, it gives you another form of inspiration.
I love Julia's analogy of us being our own unique country, and that it is the accurate mapping of our own creative expression which makes us original.
Yeah.
We are the origin of our own art, of course we are. But she says originality is the process of remaining true to oneself. But again, we live in a world where we are all connected. So creatively, we are constantly influenced by other creatives.
We are.
You cannot create in a separation. The point of life, I think, is unity.
Without doubt, it's all about connectivity. Yeah. Connection, yeah. Our creative life is not a competitive race either, you know?
No, we need to differentiate between the spirit of creation and the spirit of competition.
Yeah, for sure. If we are competing in a rush, we can discard ideas which are actually a crucial part of our creative process and expression. If we feel that somebody else got there first, it's devastating because we can abandon our creative project altogether.
Yeah, it's true. It's got to be the best, the quickest, the biggest, the one that's going to earn us the most money.
Yes.
So we're a bit like bankers, I guess, or some sort of project managers or some businessmen or businesswomen. We'll just settle only for the winners, the safe ideas. But most of our ideas as creators will go through that ugly duckling stage.
Definitely.
And we need to allow them to go through that stage and to grow into beautiful swans.
Yes.
And let's not abort our brain children too early.
Yeah, it's true.
It is a strong word, but I think that is what we very often do.
I know, because they're imperfect, they're ungainly, but they could lead us to our finest work. Breakthroughs could lead us to our true potential.
Creative thought process is gossamer. It is that invisible thread that all of a sudden births itself into existence.
I love that.
Magic.
It is
Pure
magic.
Magic.
Yeah.
This is what Julia says about the process of allowing our art to take its course and grow. Art needs time to incubate, to sprawl a little, to be ungainly and misshapen and finally emerge as itself. The ego hates this fact. The ego wants instant gratification and the addictive hit of an acknowledged win. The need to win now is a need to win approval from others. As an antidote, we must learn to approve of ourselves. Showing up for the work is the win that matters.
Bloomin' lovely, that is. Oh my goodness, Amelia, Ellen, you're not going to believe it. We have arrived at the inspiration station. Toot, toot!
Yay! So where are we this week?
We're in Newcastle, pet.
Oh, in Newcastle.
Yes, in my hometown.
Ooh, I love Newcastle. It's got beautiful architecture, that town.
It certainly does, if only one would take their eyes above the shop fronts.
Well, hey-ho. It's the story of being human at the moment on this planet.
Amelia, please tell me what has inspired you this week?
The section about desert.
Oh, yes.
As we already mentioned, it can be such a desolate place and we can feel like we've lost all hope there is in the world. But deserts have so much spiritual potential and so much potential for growth.
Yeah.
So I turn back to my trusty little booklet by Colette Baron Reid, and she does speak to the concept of desert. And she gives us this advice. Dig deep for inspiration and truth. Now is the time to become resilient and adaptable. Is your life presenting you with opportunities that seem to yield nothing? Have your ideas dried up? Does it feel like you're on an endless journey throughout a dry, hot, lifeless desert? This reminds us that there are times when we are meant to become resilient as we journey through harsher circumstances. We are being required to conserve our energy until, after consistent effort, we reach the oasis we are searching for. Consider the creatures that live in these conditions. They have adapted to thrive in spite of the outer environment. In a desert, water essential for life can be found deep underground. Go deep within yourself yourself now. Find your truth there. Let spirit sustain you while you locate the real source. Whatever it is you're asking about will not be found in the conditions you're in until you move past the surface of things and choose to do the real work and discover the answers deep within you. This may not seem like the most productive time, but looks are deceiving. This is a most important place to find what's truly right for you.
I love that.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like it was written specifically for this podcast.
So Jo, what was your inspiration this week?
My inspiration this week was a piece of prose that my husband wrote.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Connor is a beautiful writer.
Con writes about a beach in his beloved Donegal. It's in the Gaeltacht area of Ireland, which means they speak Irish language.
I think we need it this week because we have dealt with some rather nasty monsters. It'll be nice to hear some poetic language.
Indeed. So this is called Return, and it's written by Con Darrell. At the lip of the beach, just before the rushes end, is a desire line where puffins occasionally hang out, if you look elsewhere, and where hares go to sort out their domestic politics. Those little paths made up of nonconformist choices, 3 feet and 1,000,000 miles away from the new tarmac and, well, our need to wander. It was always warm for me. I would lay my head down and hear the warmth jump up, and the smell of the friach, the heather, would make me feel safe and slightly dangerous. There was a conspiracy between us. We had a saucer of larks and the song of the waves and the bark of an occasional seal, and I was the variable. And then you jumped down, where weather and tide and wind and time have broken your banks a bit until the next high tide. The seaweed like the pencil mark my grandfather put on the door to his office when we were growing. If you're cold, run up and down the beach. And sandwiches. You deafened me as a child. I thought you were God. I became aware of what you could take. I now know what you gave. But it's better to sit, to stare, to have the breath teased away from you. That feeling of cool wash when you meet your friends. A relief unearned nor asked for. Relief better than anything in a glass. Better than I've ever felt. To see the Melba glow of your sleepy horizon. But did you know that I know your secrets? I feel old now, but remember the glimmer and mischief of the small fishes at the moon's wax as I drunkenly tried to hug the world and tell you I loved you. Your temper, oft forgotten, but intriguing and scary, and the father of my bravery. That time I nearly drowned trying. That time that wee girl died. I find the desire line with clumsy numb feet, dressed better than I want, relying on the stick. I see you, my scarred beach, my heart, Trearig, the red strand. You never lost your colour. We've never discussed it.
This is so beautiful. It makes me think of a sacred space, a space that one can always return to and find the reason for living. So from a desert to a beautiful North Irish beach, we have come to the end of our podcast.
Wow, we've done it. We've got to the end of it again, Amelia.
I cannot believe it. It always goes so fast.
Every time.
Jo, what's waiting for us next week?
Well, Amelia, coming up next week is week 11 of The Artist's Way, recovering a sense of autonomy. We are almost there.
Yay!
Our dear creative wanderers, we've nearly reached the end.
Well done.
Indeed. And this week has beautiful treasures in store for us. We've travelled such a long way, and now it's time to reap some wonderful creative rewards and pamper ourselves and our artist child within. Julia rewards us with a chapter that reads like a love letter to our creative self. We end by building our very own artist's altar.
That sounds like a dynamic and very creative week.
It certainly does, doesn't it?
Thank you for wandering with us, and remember to
always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder. See you next time!